All right, I'm glad you're here. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we have some good notes about how to find roots versus how to find vertex. Roots on a parabola are where they're crossing the x-axis, which means that that is where the y is equal to 0. So the first thing that you ever do when you're trying to find the roots is you set y equal to 0, and then you solve for the x or x's. Sometimes that means factoring. Sometimes that's going to mean even simpler than that, and sometimes that's going to be a little bit more complex with a quadratic formula for how to find the vertex. The vertex, on the other hand, is your h and your k value. And we've been looking at that the h value is negative b over 2a. Now, that is very specific to this format, that the a is with the x squared term, the b is with the x term, and then the c is with the constant. C is for constant, not just ABC. So that is how you find your h value. And then your k value is whatever you get here, you're just going to plug it in. In other words, plug the x in and solve for the y value, and that will be your h and your k. So let's go ahead and look at an h and k first. Let's look at this vertex one here. So I have negative b over 2a. This is your a and your b and your c. Now negative b means opposite of what b is. So this is negative 12, so the opposite of that would be positive 12. And then 2a, a is 2. So 12 over 4 gives you 3. Once you have your x value, which is your h and of your k, then you're going to plug that back into here to solve for your k. So we have 2 times 3 squared, which is 9, minus 12 times 3 plus 9. So this gives me 18 minus 36 plus 9, which gives you negative 9 as your answer. So I'm going to make a sketch over 3 down 9. The 2 means that it is going up, and it's a little bit more narrow. I'm going to make it look a little narrowish, which means that I have 2 real roots somewhere. This didn't ask for them. We're going to look for the roots in just a second, but let's go ahead and do another vertex one. I chose this one because though we have, pardon me, though we have an a and a b, I don't have a c this time. It's still negative b over 2a. This is negative 10, so it's opposite of that, which is positive 10. And then a is negative 5. So we have 10 over negative 10, which is negative 1. I'm going to plug that back in here. So I have negative 5 times negative 1 squared. Negative 1 times negative 1, which is positive 1. And then negative 1 times 10, negative 10 is 10. So this is 10 and a minus 5, which gives me a positive 5. So I have negative 1 plus 5. So I've got that as my vertex. And then this here is what determines up or down. It's down and it's super narrow. The fact that it's a 5 makes it really, really stretched. So I am again going to have 2 real roots when I do my problem. Now let's transition and look at the roots and how those are different. For the roots, I'm interested in where y is equal to 0. So let's do this one first because it's a little bit simpler. This one here is factorable. So I'm going to factor this. I do my little diamond. I've got, what, negative 30 and 13, so 15 and negative 2. Now, since there's a 1 in front of here, that's all I need, x minus 2 and x plus 15. If I check it, I have x times x is x squared. Negative 2 times 15 is negative 30, and this is 15x minus 2x, which is totally 13x. So we've got it. So now I use that to solve. So either x minus 2 is equal to 0 or x plus 15 is equal to 0. So in this case, 2 would make that happen. In this case, negative 15 would make that happen. So remember, my y's are 0 for each of these. That's what we set in. And then 2 is one of my answers and negative 15. So I have my 2, my negative 15. Now, this one here is a positive in front there, which means it's facing up. It's a positive parabola. And so it looks something like that. And that's all we asked for. We didn't ask you for the vertex in this case. I do know that it's going down, and I have my 2 roots here. So let's look at the only slightly more complicated one of this. Take out a piece of paper to do this on, so give myself some room. I'm Irish. So here, I'm going to, again, use diamond problem. Because there are no common factors, so I can't take anything out. So that would be negative 40 on top and 3 on the bottom, which would be, what, 8 and 5? Okay, now, I want to show you why this isn't the answer. This would give you x squared, which is not 2x squared. This would give you negative 40, which is not negative 20. So that is not the answer. We have the choice of using the box method or the factor by grouping. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the factor by grouping. So these guys here are what we rename this as. So again, this, if I put it back together, gives me positive 3x. So that's all that I did there. I'm now going to factor by grouping. So what's common here is an x. I'm left with 2x minus 5. What's common here is a 4, and I'm now left with 2x minus 5. Yay! Since these are both the same, I'm now going to factor that out of both. And I'm left over with my x and my 4. Now let's check it. That gives me 2x squared. Awesome. This one here gives me negative 20. Awesome. And this one here is 8x minus 5x, which is totally my 3x. So it does indeed work. These are my two factors, so 2x minus 5 equals 0, or x plus 4 equals 0. If this is true, x would be negative 4 to make that happen. If this one was true, I would get 5 halves to make that happen. So again, I have 0 and 0 for my y values, and then I have negative 4 as one answer, and 5 halves, which is 2.5 for the other one. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and a half. The 2 means that it's facing up because it's positive, and it's also a little bit more narrow, so it's probably a little bit more kind of stretched. Looking like that. Hopefully those helped.